of course. You know, I go to a predominantly white school. I've encountered prejudice, but kind of got to learn how to respond over a while.
Even before the founding of our country, African Americans have had a long history of being oppressed and misunderstood. While today, their struggles may not compare to the atrocities faced by their ancestors, racism and discrimination still plague our society. Even at places like SHS, which is known for its diverse student population, harmful misconceptions and stereotypes still exist, whether or not other students even realize it.
I think the most common misconception is actually among African Americans. I think that a lot of African Americans believe that they can't do everything that the other ethnicities are doing. They can't, you know, they're not as smart, or they're not as well as test takers, or just, you know, really simple things that just aren't true. If you know it, then you know it. If you're good at what you do, then you're good at what you do. It's just the amount of effort that you put in is definitely what you get out. If you put in effort, you'll be great.
Some prevalent ones that I think I hear about sometimes are just that black kids are always getting into trouble or getting bad grades, or I think that the causes of those sorts of issues can really happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what your race is or anything like that.
I feel that sometimes I'm watched, not so much by the staff, but definitely by the parents, especially when I first started working here. Now that I've been here over 10 years, I've built a reputation for myself. I've had some siblings and people who kind of know and trust me more, but definitely when I first started, people were not very receptive, and there was a lot of pressure to perform. My advice to African American students is that life is challenging, that when people see you, the first thing that they see is color, and that you have to work hard to prove yourself. But if people look nice, then you need to look really nice. If people are smart, then you need to be really smart. If people are working hard, then you've got to work really hard and have to be aware that there are different stereotypes that exist, and that you have to sometimes be the representative of the culture.
And in refuting these one-dimensional categorizations, as well as commemorating the rich history of African Americans and their contributions to society, our young scholars had dedicated their efforts last February to create a meaningful celebration of Black History Month. One of the main initiatives was the pep rally on February 23rd. Along with personal speeches by the young scholars, students heard guest speaker Dr. Odell Owens talk about the struggles he had faced throughout his life.
And I wrote this poem with the intentions to uplift African Americans. This is a poem of triumph, and so it's called To Benefit the People Africa Land. Dry your eyes and clear your lens, a time for change is imminent. Though Black people are heaven sent, our mistreatment remains evident.
Black history is more than what we're taught in schools, and Black people are more than what we're portrayed in media. I am proud to be Black, and I'm not ashamed of my history.
I flunked out of Walnut Hills because my mother died. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and when one of them got sick, I had to stay home. She looked at her folder, a piece of paper that she defined as me, and said, I see that your family's on welfare. You're too poor and too stupid to go to college. You see, when I went to college, the first week of college, our biology instructor said, to go to medical school from Antioch College, you need a 3.3. But as I was leaving the room, he pulled me back into the room when everyone had left. He said, but of course you will need a 3.4. People say to me, well, weren't you angry? No, I knew it. Oh, I knew what I had to do. When I went to Yale, that was a great time. But when I walked into Yale, there were only 7 African Americans, and people said, well, you're here because you're Black, or you're here because you're smart. Black History is that month where we should all stop and think about people who had struggles, how slaves that came here 400 years ago as slaves had to be presidents, something I thought I would never see in my lifetime.
It was a challenge, but I wouldn't trade who I am for the world. There are parts of my culture, parts of the African American history and story that make me strong. When I look back and I see where people have come from, how much they've fought, that when I show up to places where I know that I deserve to be there because I know how hard I had to work to get there.